Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about 5 things confident people do to stay positive. So, some of these things are going to be proactive, like things you can practically do, but a lot of these are actually internal things that you need to start practicing for yourself, which can be difficult because sometimes it's really hard to shift our perception of what we can do, what we can achieve, and change our perceptions of ourselves. Like, it's a very tricky thing to be able to do that because, no doubt, if you've been, let's say, a negative person, you're always worrying, you're always thinking of worst case scenario, the likelihood is that you've been thinking that way for a long period of time. So it can be quite difficult to recondition your brain to start thinking in a different way. But it's something that you can do, it just may require a bit of effort. And I'll go into what I personally did because I used to be quite a negative person. Sometimes my mind sometimes still goes to worst case scenario type of places. But I have got a lot better over the years because this was something that I really, really struggled with. So I'll let you know about that later on. But let's first get into these 5 things that confident people do to stay positive. So the first thing they do is they realize they're not going to please everybody and not everything will go their way. Because sometimes you see people completely fly off the handles or get really, really anxious and worried when it's just one person that doesn't like them, right? You can have all the friends in the world, but you're going to focus on that one person that doesn't like you. Sometimes you see that happening. Or it could be the case of, you've tried to do something and it didn't work out. And that can really derail you and make you feel awful. So what confident people do is they realize that they're not always going to get what they want. Things aren't always going to go their way. They're not always going to succeed at everything that they do. And that they're also not going to please everybody. Okay. There's something I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he said, like, if you get like 51% of a good sort of like feedback, that's still a landslide. Even if you impress 50% of the people, that's still a lot of people, and that's still a majority. So you see, so as you can see, this is what confident people do. They know they're not going to please everybody, but they don't try to please everybody either. They don't expect things to always go their way. They just put out their truth to people. They do their best with what they can do, and if those things don't work out, they don't work out. If they go out on a date with someone and that person doesn't like them back, at least they were honest with themselves and they were being true to who they are and they was being authentic, right? So if people don't like your authentic self, there's not really much you can do about it. You're not going to please everybody. So that's the first thing that they do. But as you can see, it's more of an internal thing, right? So it's a conclusion that you need to come within yourself and start living from that place and being reminded of that constantly. So it's a good idea, if you want to come back to this video again and again so it can help you engrave the information into your brain, okay? So the next thing is, another thing that confident people do to stay positive is a lot of the time they're too busy doing their own thing to wallow in self-pity. They're too busy to be negative and to be woe is me. Now that doesn't mean they don't have sad times, they don't have events in their life that makes them feel bad, because of course every life, unfortunately, will have some form of tragedy in it. We're not immune to that. We're going to have tragedy in our lives. It's just something that happens. It's just part of life. But usually, most of the time, confident people who stay positive are usually too busy to wallow in their self-pity. They're always doing proactive things to help improve their lives, to help improve the lives of others. They don't have time to really think about, I don't like how that person spoke to me. I don't like, when I went to the shop the other day and the cashier was a bit short with me or whatever it may be. They don't worry about that thing too much. Because they're too busy focused on the next thing that they need to do. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to become a workaholic. It just means that you've got lots of things to fill up your time that makes you feel productive, that makes you feel good about yourself, and it makes you feel like you're progressing in your life. Because if you feel like you're making progress in your life, you feel good about yourself. I go to that quote that I leave at the end of all my videos now by Dale Carnegie, and that is, Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. So that's, negativity in a way. Inaction breeds negativity. But if you take action on your goals, on your dreams, and you're trying to help your community or whatever way that you feel like you're contributing and you are aiming towards that better life, you're going to feel confidence and courage if you're working on that every day or whenever you get the opportunity to. You're not going to have time to sit there and worry about other people's opinions of you, okay? So the next thing that they do, that confident people will do to stay positive, is they use social media sparingly. Now, this is something that you can proactively do, because when you go on social media, things like Instagram, Facebook sometimes as well, sometimes you can get into the state of mind where you feel like you're comparing yourself to other people. So like you're on Instagram and let's say someone who you went to school with has an amazing holiday in Bali, and you've always wanted to go to Bali, but they've got there first before you, and then you start comparing yourself like, oh, I really wanted to do that, and now they've done it, they've taken my dream. Sometimes you can get into that state of mind. To people who are confident and who are generally positive, they don't spend that much time on social media. And if they do, they're using it as a tool to communicate with their family, to arrange meetups. A good way to use your smartphone when it comes to social media and messenger apps and things like that. Obviously, if it's part of your work, then you may need to do that. You may need to post regularly, but most of the time, use it as a tool, as a communication device to arrange meetups with your friends and your family, or to talk to your colleagues or your employees or things like that. So use it sparingly. Don't use it as a competition, because one of the things you got to remember, right, is social media, when people post photos, they're posting highlight reels, right? You see the photos of when they're in Bali, right? But you don't see the photos of them, looking groggy at the airport and the 3-hour drive they had to do to the airport. You didn't see them having to queue and getting bored, looking at their phone. Maybe they were hungry, things like that. You don't see that. You only see like the good, cool snaps. And no doubt they picked the ones that looked the best. They didn't pick the ones that made them look like they had a double chin or whatever, or they had a bit of flab hanging out. They don't post those ones. They post the ones where they look good. Okay, so that's something else that you need to keep in mind as well. Social media is a highlight reel. Don't take it too seriously. Do what confident people do who stay positive, and that is to use it as a tool and to use it sparingly, okay? So another thing that confident people do to stay positive is they don't judge others, so it's easier for them to not judge themselves. Because one of the reasons why we sometimes get negative, or we have a bit of a pity party, or we're just feeling horrible, sometimes the thing that we're doing is we're judging ourselves too much, and one of the things that can help with that is if you start coming from a less judgmental place to others, right? So if you start kind of treating other people with unconditional love, even if they don't deserve it. But sometimes the best thing you can do is, if you're not agreeing with someone, or there's someone that you don't like, just send them a silent blessing. You don't actually have to communicate with them in any way. Think, okay, this person is who they are. There's not really much I can do to change them, so I've just got to let them be. And, send them a silent blessing and let it go. So the less you judge others, the less likely you are to judge yourself. Now, a trick, which is the most popular video that I made on this channel, is there is a book called The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. And one of the things that can help you feel more positive about yourself is if you follow the high five habit. Now, the high five habit is literally where you just go to your mirror every day in the morning, usually, before you go to work, before you've, done your routine to get ready, and just give yourself a high five in the mirror. You don't have to like hit the mirror when you do it, but just do something like that, and go and watch that video if you want to. A lot of you probably already came from that video anyway, because it's the most popular one on this channel. But if you do that, what it does is that it makes you feel more positive about yourself, because you can't high five yourself and give yourself a little boost in that way, and feel negative about yourself at the same time. Because the mirror, you can use it as a tool that can help you by boosting yourself up, like by giving yourself a high five, or you can make it as a tool to judge yourself and to hate yourself. right? So use it as a tool to make yourself feel good about yourself. And doing the high five habit is one of the best things that you can do. So I highly recommend that you go and watch that video I made. I highly recommend that you get the book, The High Five Habit, or the audio book, because then Mel will be able to explain it a lot more than me, because it's her technique. So let's get into the last thing, the fifth thing that confident people do to stay positive. And that is when they do feel negative, they know how to talk to themselves to cheer them up. Or they know what to do to make themselves feel better. You know, something that helps me, like if I'm feeling negative, or if I'm feeling grumpy, or if I'm just not feeling good, one of the things that I need to do is I just need to take a nap and have a reset. You know, just have a power nap for 20 minutes, and that usually resets me. Or I lay down on my acupressure mat, and that kind of relaxes me. Or I listen to a meditation. Sometimes I use my acupressure mat and I listen to a meditation at the same time. That can sometimes really help me. So that's something else that they do. You know, they know how to talk to themselves, and they know ways that they can cheer themselves up. So they're very self-aware. They know what can make them feel good. And usually the thing that makes them feel good is something that's empowering, because sometimes people feel like they're doing something that makes them feel good, like perhaps they go and play a video game, or they watch too much TV, or they indulge in food or drink or something like that. But actually what they're doing is they're just trying to comfort themselves. That's not making themselves feel better, because no doubt if they overindulge in something like that, they're going to feel bad about it later on. So when you are trying to cheer yourself up, make sure it's something proactive and it's something that's in line with your goals. So for example, it could be you go out and exercise, or you could go and meditate, or you could just take a little quick nap. Something that's actually going to refresh you and make you feel good, as opposed to make you feel groggy and something that you're not going to regret later on down the road. Okay, so the thing that helped me then, which I talked about at the beginning of this video, because I used to be a predominantly negative person. So one of the things that I used to do that kept me negative was I used to listen to a lot of like angsty sort of music, sad music. That's one thing that I did. I just had a tendency to just go to worst case scenario in my own head and things like that. And I really hated myself. I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like anything about me really. And I didn't really treat myself with much respect. Like when I was younger, I overindulged in alcohol to the point where I'd black out and things like that. I would do things so destructive to myself because I didn't care about myself. So one of the things that helped me, one of the people that helped me was Dr. Wayne Dyer. Now, when I started listening to him and watching his lectures, like one of the first, I think the first lecture I watched of his was The Power of Intention. And I just started listening to him, reading his books, listening to his audiobooks, watching his PBS specials. And he completely changed my mind on how to change negatives into positives. So, when you've got a negative situation, a situation that makes you feel really bad about yourself, usually there's multiple ways to look at it. You can look at it as worst case scenario, or you can look at it as, it's something else. So let's say, this is a typical one. Let's say you get rejected by someone that you find really attractive. Now you could either see that as, oh, they rejected me because I'm ugly and I don't mean anything and I'm worthless. You can go to that point, and I've been to that place before myself when it came to situations like that, right? Or you could see it as, okay, maybe it's just an incompatibility issue. Right? Maybe it's for the best that we're not together. Perhaps this person would have been hell on wheels to be with. You don't know. You don't know what it's like to live with this person, to be around them all the time. So there's multiple ways that you could look at it. Or it could just be that maybe, it's really egotistical of me to think that everyone that I like will like me back. That everyone I'm attracted to will be attracted to me. All I've got to do is I've just got to find a person that I'm attracted to and they're attracted to me back. Right? And that's the kind of situation that you need to think. You need to take that situation that's making you feel negative and actually look at all the different angles that you possibly could, not just the worst case scenario, the one that makes you feel awful. Okay, so, and usually when you can come up with like 5 or 6 different other meanings of what this, in that situation, this negative situation, if you can come up with like 5 or 6 other things that are a little bit more positive, usually the feeling becomes less intense. And that's what's really helped me. And I highly recommend as well that you go and, check out Dr. Wayne Dyer if you haven't ever come across his content before and his work. Fortunately, he's not alive anymore. Would really have loved to have met him because he is like my all-time hero. And unfortunately, I only got into his work after he had passed away. but his stuff is like timeless wisdom, and it'll really give you a more positive outlook on life, a more positive mindset if you follow him and watch some of his things that he's done and read some of his books. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you would like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.